Here we are with Conscious Humans, and I am with Lisa, who I had the pleasure of meeting 3 years ago. And so it's just really special to be able to have conversation with you, Lisa, because we have been ascending together and supporting one another. And it's a beautiful place to be, being able to look back 3 years later and just take note of how far we've come. And because it is a journey, it's a commitment to self-actualization and just not accepting what was and exploring what can be. So I 3 years later, now we can look at this and say, okay, where are we now in this evolution of our own personal evolution? And yeah, what are you working on now? Because it always is a project of love, of course, and it can feel like work sometimes until it's no longer that.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi,
It's
Lisa.
so wonderful. It's so wonderful to be here and sit and chat with you. So yeah, there's I was thinking about this earlier actually. It's a mixture of work, actually quite hard work in a way, for me to stay on the wavelength that I want to be, and to constantly working on becoming or stepping into the person that I know that I can be, and that I'm here to be. But at the same time, it's also easy. It's like, so I mean, what am I working on? I'm working on discovering more of my multidimensionality, I would say, like unpacking what I already know. How we came to this earth, we were born and we didn't remember who we were or what our capabilities are. And then slowly we discover and remember more and more. And I'm right now in the process of really clearing out my body. I'm in an amazing program, actually, an intense program where we meet twice a week. We do qigong and we work with our meridians and like tapping on the body, working on the body to release emotions and blockages, both on an energy level and on a physical level, because obviously everything is linked.
So well said. I love that. And I think it's beautiful and so important to keep exploring. And what is it to hold a higher vibration? It does require a release and letting go of what was, and you're bringing in all this galactic energy, and I love that because it is connecting to our highest selves, and we are multidimensional beings, and we can shift into something other than what is now, and to approach it with curiosity and love, and it changes the whole game of it. So, but the letting go part is probably more the work, if anything. Would you not agree to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are constantly like challenged and faced with challenges every day, aren't we? More or less. And they can be like, I think this is what I wanted to say before we started this conversation, that, I recently discovered through another person also that when somebody asks you, how are you? And I usually wanted to be so incredibly honest. So I wanted to kind of, oh yeah, I'm both bad and I'm both good, and this is working well and this is challenging. And then I realized that actually I can start, like the baseline can be, I am actually good. And why am I good? I'm good because I do the work that I want to do, and I'm constantly like getting more and more, stepping more and more into my true self. I'm getting closer to myself every day. And that is a good thing.
It's a great
Even
thing.
even though there was a leakage in my kitchen today and I had to clean everything out and, wiping, and it was just so non-glamorous, it was really annoying. But I mean, that doesn't mean that you have to get dragged down.
Exactly. I love that you're bringing that through because it is becoming comfortable with a new frequency. And
Mm.
we're so programmed to be in this mindset of, for me, that victimization or having to work through challenges. But what if work can be fun? And it all because there's always a higher perspective. There is
Mm.
always something positive, that glass half full, and it's just becoming comfortable with looking for the silver lining in every given situation. I too just took out a big load of laundry and had all kinds of stains and marks all over the load. And I thought, okay, coincidence or not, I ended up going to see my hairdresser that very morning, and she was sharing with me how you need to clean the bottom of the washing machine. I'd never done that before.
No, no.
So
That I didn't know that either.
well, there you go. There you go. So again, it's almost like, okay, what is our fate, destiny? Working with our spirit team, that's how they come through for me through these conversations. And so then I giggle to myself. I'm like, oh, this is why that came through earlier. It's time to clean up the machine. And having that positive perspective, it was a really gross experience. I'm not gonna lie. It was like it wasn't, but I
Yeah.
was laughing at myself the whole time because look at me, look what I'm doing. Now I know how to clean out a washing machine, and I could laugh at the whole thing and
That's
following that. Yeah.
amazing.
So it is about shifting into a higher perspective
It
or
is.
a
Yeah.
positive way of looking at all situations.
Mm-hmm.
And even the ones that are challenging, sometimes we don't know in the moment of why it's happening, but becoming comfortable, or at least a willingness to accept that truly everything is happening for us. And it's also for the greater good of all, because we are all part of one. And I keep thinking of a challenging, my brother went through something challenging years and years ago. I had a nephew who was born missing his pulmonary artery, and you talk about an angel on this earth, that was him. And
Mm.
devastating what my brother went through and the family. And but him being an anesthesiologist and having to go through that experience, and then his son passing away a couple years later,
Oh.
it it made him who he is. And I'm not going to speak for him. I'm sure there's always going to be a hole in his heart, but he became a specialist with pain management for infants as an anesthesiologist. And he could relate to all those other parents who are going through something like that, and how a tragedy can turn into the biggest blessing. And now he too is doing his thing as being an angel on this earth and helping others get through something that is very difficult. So, and yeah, I
Oh.
just felt the need to share that because
Yeah.
it really is, if we can start to see the intelligence behind it all,
Mm.
the divine order in it all, it's a game changer.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so profound and beautiful. And I agree 1000%, really, that it is a game changer when you start realizing that it doesn't really happen to me, it happens for me. And as you say, when we're in the middle of the worst pain, we are humans. And of course, there are going to be moments when we really feel that it's unfair, or that we curse our fates or whatever it is, and we're very upset. But if you can come back to a basic, this is what I feel in my life, that it, however how many challenges there are, and heartbreaks. I've had loads of heartbreaks the last few years. However much that happens, I always come back to I know that somebody or an intelligence is there for me, and this is happening for my highest good, and I can trust that I am held, and and it's so clear that that is the way it is. And also, like your brother, you were talking about how the pain that we go through makes us into so much more interesting and actually deep people. So I mean, if we think about the people that we love to hang out with and talk to, they are the people who have gone through something, right? Because they will have the compassion and the understanding, and yeah, it's going to be more interesting, basically.
It is more interesting. And going back to what you said earlier,
Mm.
yes, our pain is our power. And as soon as we learn to shift that perspective, it really does elevate us into a new vibration.
Yeah.
And then it's an invitation for others to grow with us. And if they don't want to grow with us, then
Mm.
that's okay. That's perfectly good and right. And becoming comfortable with these new experiences, as you hold this high vibration, you truly do start to draw in people and experiences that are at that same vibration. And
Mm.
sometimes it feels a little surreal, like, can all these good things really start to happen for me? And yes, they can. And we need to become comfortable with this, because that is how we are going to shift our human experience, starting to expect amazing things in our lives.
Yeah, I love that. That is also so true. um, the thing that we notice that it's a matter of also paying attention to the things that happen in our lives on our daily basis, things that are actually totally magic, like for instance, I sing in the radio choir here in Stockholm, as you know.
Yes, I love that.
We were recording the other day. We were in a church recording music, and when we record, it all has to be very, very perfect. And you do retakes, and everyone, it has to be in tune, obviously, and everything has to be on a certain level. And during this recording session, we suddenly discovered that there was a wasp in the room. And since this was in a church, the wasp was really, really high up in the ceiling, and there was no way that anybody was going to catch it. And I absolutely loved it, because you could hear the wasp,
Yes.
especially when it got quiet, like in the moments when it was quiet. And for me, that's just like a blessing. That is Mother Nature stepping in and co-creating with us. And how, and there were lots of people who were concerned and thinking, oh gosh, what are we going to do? What if this comes into the recording? What are we going to do? And the magic of it was that the wasp was buzzing in the tone D, and we were singing. That was like a central tone that we came back to over and over. So it was singing the same tone that we were
I
singing.
love that. I'm full body shivers with that story. So that's my point. We need to get comfortable. Well, first, releasing expectation, because everything is exactly right. And and co-creating with the universe. This is a beautiful example of that.
Exactly.
And how do we also do that? By dissolving disappointment.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? You said that earlier. You dissolve disappointment by simply stating everything is happening for us,
Yes.
for me, for the greater good of all, and just trust in that. That is key. And if you can repeat that over and over and over, before you know it, you're never going to be disappointed. And guess what? Things will shift from one moment to a next. So, and just by alchemizing it into a higher vibration and saying, okay, that's happening for me, I'm going to let that go. And then next thing you know, you get that invitation, you get that surprise, you
Yeah.
get that blessing through a wasp.
True, exactly. And this is the beauty of it too, that if we can stop thinking that we know what's best for us and that we have this, fixed idea what the result is going to be, then the result will be even more amazing that we could have, what do you say, like expected. If we could, our fantasies couldn't have thought this up. And my latest is really that I want to co-create music, making music with nature. Like now I have seagulls here in the background. I don't know if
I
you can
hear
hear.
them. I love
It's
it.
it's it's so cool because you don't know when they are going to step in, the animals. You don't know what they're going to say and do and how they can actually contribute to the sounds. And I was even thinking after that experience with the wasp, it made me think of Chernobyl. you know how that
No,
when,
explain. I don't.
no, the place in Russia where there was a power plant, a nuclear power
Oh,
plant
okay. I
catastrophe. And they had to evacuate. It was a big catastrophe in the 80s. I guess it was the 80s. And there hasn't lived, and no humans have lived there since then because they think it's so dangerous. But in fact, animals and plants are thriving. And so they are now, I've seen some films from there where people have gone in somehow and filmed it. So you see all these old blocks of houses of human buildings that are overgrown with nature.
love
And
that.
in the windows there are these birds' nests, and they seem to have a paradise there now. And it's like somehow for me that's a symbol of how I imagine new earth. Like the earth that we want to have is, we have to get away from the way that we have tried to control nature. We cannot do that. And we see that over and over again. And I think that, for me, the wasp was almost like a symbol of, you can't do this anymore the way, in the old way. It's not just the human way. We have to do it together. Yeah.
We do. We do have to do it together. And just life is truly precious, and life force energy, if all you need is that, some water, some sun, and
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
witness the magic that can happen even in the worst environments, right?
Mm. Yeah.
It Yeah. Thank you for
I,
sharing that. Sorry, do
I
you want
think
to?
yeah, I think it's a longing that more and more people obviously have, that they are longing to go back to the basic way of living, the more uncomplicated way of living close to nature, growing your own food, buying food from the farmers, which is something I've started doing, which I love. There's a farmer really close to here in walking distance. I can buy the milk directly from the cows and eggs. It's just amazing. I think there are lots of people who value this and appreciate this much more now than before. And so I think that it's happening. We are going to come back to nature. That's my, that's the vision I hold.
I love it, and keep holding that vision, because it's also, you're shifting the mindset of what abundance is.
Mm.
And I think that's truly beautiful. And also when you brought in the animals, as you hold a high vibration, it is interesting how animals, you start to attract more animals in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also like to just share something because it is coming through, and I think it's important as you start to hold a really high frequency as well. There, going back to the work, because I'm experiencing it right now. My vibration is going really, really, really high. And sometimes it's hard to ground that energy. And because you're so the channel is so open, it's just frequencies coming through, and it's hard to articulate all the information that's coming through. And I find, as you were saying this earlier, like that is an adjustment, because you're operating in this vibration. Every once in a while you'll dip down and then you come back up. But as soon as you start to play in an even higher vibration, we need to give ourselves a little bit of a grace period to adjust to it. And why am I saying this is because it's actually happened a few times where the grounding part, this is why it's so important. That is sometimes comes across like that you are medicating yourself or on drugs. Like I've had like my daughter said, "Mom, are you drunk?" I'm like, I don't drink. I like or I'm just really hyper, and so you have to learn to ground that energy down, because you I feel like I'm buzzing like a bee. And so it's coming through. I'm in the moment. I'm sharing it in the moment because this is what I'm living, and it's important to be transparent, real, and raw, so that when somebody else is going through it, that they're not thinking that this is bad, that this is just a new experience. And it does require some adjustment and grounding and alchemizing and truly embodying that new energy, getting comfortable and familiar with it, if that makes sense. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now when you say it, that what I have experienced is actually, you know, those moments when you remember that you can just, with a thought, you can just pull in higher frequency, light, whatever you want to call it, the Christ light or light from the stars, like you can just pull it into your body just by thinking about it, and it can be instant. And that can almost freak me out sometimes when I do that, and I feel exactly this kind of buzzing feeling in the body.
It's
And
coming through
oh
you
my
right
god,
now. I can see it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you, because it's hilarious in a way, because it's obviously what we want. It's an amazing feeling. But it also gives you a taste of how limitless we are. And I think that's when it can get scary. At least for me, I when I start realizing that, oh my god, there's no limit. I can I can actually decide myself exactly what I'm going to be in this very moment. And
Yes, and be
that is
careful what you ask for.
yeah, because
Because
that's not what we were taught when we grew up.
no, and as
We
we
were
hold
taught that
these vibrations, we manifest like this. The other day, I was just walking with a neighbor, and my guides had told me you should get a vitamin IV injection. And today, it was a Saturday.
mm-hmm,
How, okay, I don't know where to even begin. I looked it up, and there was a clinic that wasn't far from my place, wasn't available till during the week. And I'm walking with my neighbor, I'm telling her this, and she said, "No, there is a pop-up clinic and it's happening today." And she called her and she said, "I have a friend who's getting." Next thing I know, I was in there within an hour.
oh wow, that's
This
so cool.
this
That's
is
amazing.
this is the power of
Yeah,
co-creation, and it
yes,
really comes back always to holding these high vibrations. And
yeah,
yes, you're right, it feels a little scary at first because it's unfamiliar. Like
mm-hmm,
all things in life, anything new is a little scary. Am I safe? It goes back to our primal self wanting to keep ourselves alive and safe and healthy. But these high frequencies are truly a gateway to something way beyond what we can comprehend. And I'm just starting to play with my, well, I'm not going to say that. I like that it's been a little while now. And really, it's like things turn on. And I do remember when I was a little girl, my grandmother said to my father, there's Wayne, you should check have Leanne looked at, because I guess I wasn't walking and I wasn't talking, and I was just observing. There was nothing wrong with me. And I believe that I was just still so embodied in my high self at the time. And I'm just exploring this new environment. And now that I've awakened to more of who I am and what I'm capable of, and I'm starting to live more and more as my highest self, it's interesting how living in this 3D reality, but my consciousness is in a higher dimension, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
And when you live there, you're not so much in programming or thought. It's the information, and maybe you could help with that, because even with your singing, everything really is channeled. And how you channel this information and decode it all and then express it, it's a different way of operating.
Mm.
It's not good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah. Um, you know, when we get into this, it's really hard to put words onto these things, because we feel this. It's
Mhm.
not something that somebody's telling us with words, unless we are that kind of channeler, which I'm not, and I don't know if you are, but
They come in
usually,
every way, honestly, but
yeah.
keep going, because this is interesting.
But I think, no, I think for me, the messages basically they come in. First of all, the interesting thing is that the higher vibration, or what we should call it, the higher I get, the more energy I can get into my body, the closer I get to my childhood self, when I was a little girl. I, suddenly I remember what it was like, and there is so much more sparkle and energy, and but I think that the stage that I am in is very much a stage when I just notice that the energy channels are opening up. And so that means that I will see things, or have, this is so random, it's so difficult to put into words, because I will get feelings that make me realize that I am multidimensional, but I don't know what it all means. This,
It's just gonna click one day. It's like
yeah,
these puzzle pieces, and I love that you're bringing this
of
through,
course.
because as we start to hold these higher states of consciousness, that's
Yeah,
exactly the experience. And this is the new human experience,
yeah,
because it is held outside of
mhm,
programming
yeah,
of from our youth. And I love that you said that when you bring in these high frequencies, it really does bring us back to that child self.
yeah.
And
Because we were there then. We were
yeah,
much closer when we were small, of
and
course.
and you hold that really, really high vibration. And it's time as adults on earth that we start to shift what it is, that it's okay to tap into that childlike energy, because that's what keeps us youthful, and that youthful energy, and in
Mm,
that like, as you said, that sparkly energy.
yeah.
And to play, it's okay to be silly and dance
And in
and
fact,
have
sorry,
fun. Have
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, have fun. But also, I mean, I like to dive deeper and be even running the risk of sounding even more crazy. But you know, the eternal life potentiality that I think that both you and I believe in, that has to do with this.
Yeah.
That the whole programming of aging, getting sick, um, decay, decay, physical decay. That's just not true.
Yeah.
That's not how we are meant to live. And once you
It's so
realize that, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to play that game anymore. That is so not interesting.
we
It's
really are
not
our own worst,
fair.
our ego mind or our program mind, it truly is our own worst enemy. It's interesting how we're always trying to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe when we are actually designed
Mm,
to regenerate and become whole and
mm,
complete.
mm. Which again we can do with just a thought.
Eh,
It
it's
makes me
it's
think of
choice.
Darth Vader saying, I can kill you with a single thought." You know, it's that we can
It
do things with a single thought. That is true. That
it
is
is
true.
true, and even more so, it's the energy behind it.
Mm,
Because if it is fear-based, if it is from a place of control, that's how, yeah, then you're gonna play within those realms. And if you have a spirit like much like I really tap into a little bit of like that little Red Riding Hood spirit that I can walk through a forest and have wolves circling around me, but I just like, "Ah, I'm just going to grandmother's house and nothing bad's going to happen to me. I'm protected, I'm loved, and I choose to breeze through this experience." So that is the energy I'm putting out. And who knows what sort of dangers I'm avoiding stepping
yeah,
into by just holding that vibration. And
yeah.
how does that come through? I was driving once on the highway and there was a big, moose right in the, it was dark at night, right in the middle of the highway, and I drove past it. We locked eyes to eye.
Oh,
It was
wow.
such a beautiful experience, but it could have been nasty. It could have been a terrible accident. But
Yeah,
no, it turned into a beautiful energetic exchange between myself and that majestic animal on the highway. And
yeah. Mm,
thank you, universe, for keeping me safe. And that's the co-creation. I'm always safe. Everything is always happening for me. And I'm here to experience more magic in my life. And you keep repeating that over and over and over and letting go of density. When something bad comes into your field, it's because it's something that's ready to be released. So start to explore what it is, whether it's a lesson. I don't know. But that this is where it's so important to connect with counselors, coaches, psychologists, energy workers, friends, people you can trust who open the door for curiosity so you can start to see the higher perspective from every situation so that you can release that old story that's no longer serving you.
yeah, yeah. That's really beautiful said. And that story with the moose is amazing. I love those kind of moments in life, and you know when things are just totally magic and they almost don't make sense and you don't understand how they happened, but they happen. And I think this is one of the most important things, you know, one of the things that will make a difference if we start trusting in life and trusting in the divine. Because, you know, if we recognize these, they can also be so small, these things. Like when I had 3 dragonflies in my bedroom the other day. You
Mm.
have to see the magic in that.
I know,
What
it's so
are
true.
they? Three
It's
of them.
true.
and I tried to show them the way out, but they wouldn't. They didn't want to go out, you know. I'm sure that they were there to do something, to help me with something, you know, transform something. And
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you said that because let's like maybe explore what that is to have a download, an upgrade, because we need to start talking about it because
yeah.
this is what happens as we start to hold these higher vibrations and asking to co-create with the universe.
Mm.
I know myself, and it's always shifting and growing. Well, it's like different things turn on, or like they're gifts that become activated within the body. My hands, I right now they're starting to activate. It's the coolest thing when they start to activate, and I know that when that happens, I'm supposed to share that with something, whatever it is. But it's always from the highest integrity, the highest frequencies. But it is an activation to help another into their next highest
Higher.
self.
Mm.
How do activations come through for you, or upgrades, if you will,
Well,
energetically
I think
speaking?
if we're talking about activations in body parts, that is definitely something that the Qigong helps with, I think.
Hmm.
And, you know, doing just, it was recently actually when we were doing this Qigong class, and we just did this classic exercise when you take your hands and do this
I'm
and you
gonna do it
build
with you.
it.
This is the child self in me.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then you know, you do this, and then you start, and then immediately, as soon as you focus on it, you can feel
Oh,
the
I
energy
feel it.
up. Yeah. And the
That's
really,
that's also tied into airbending. Have you heard of that? I
mm,
I I
I've
don't.
heard, I've heard about it, but you know, I'm not exactly an
Okay,
expert on
I'm
it.
honestly not an expert either. I haven't even researched it. I'm just speaking from experience, and my guides told me that that's airbending. So,
Ah.
as you get comfortable with feeling the energy, you
Mm.
can actually start. So when I'm holding these really, really high states of consciousness, I it's interesting to play with air and your hands and how you can move energy. You can shift it into a higher, I can just
Oh
do
yeah.
this
Okay. Mm.
and it raises my
Mm.
frequency just by doing this. And
Yeah.
it does, the air feels energetic. It's how you work with the field around you. So
Yeah.
that's airbending from.
That's really interesting. That, and you
Mhm.
know what? I think that I'm doing that sometimes when I drive. I just feel that I need to do different things with my hands, and they just do it, you know? They
Yes.
do it too. And the really funny thing is that I one thing that I have been doing is this cross.
Hmm.
And I'm not doing it, I wasn't doing it because I was trying to imitate some Christian.
I'm not feeling that from you.
I was just led to do it, and then I heard a man on YouTube, like actually a qigong man, talking about this, and he said,
Is it
"This
centered?
this is a protection against demons." Actually,
Oh,
apparently, according to, you know, if you believe in that, I don't know how that is for you, but I thought that was
mm.
really interesting. Whatever you call it, it's a protection thing. Apparently,
Okay. Let's go there. Let's go there into the demon thing. Because I find this interesting.
yeah,
But for me, it's just a demonic energy.
yeah.
It's a low vibrational energy. You talk about the seven deadly sins.
Mm.
Those are demonic energies, and they just keep you in this lower vibration. So if you choose to play in those realms
Mhm.
and that's when addiction can start. So that's the demon, because it wants to be fed in order,
To-
and it takes over. So for me, that is demonic energy. And I like to play, when you said earlier, with my child self, become the demon slayer. And I'll share a little story that came through in a dream that I had, I think it was about a year ago, where the devil came at me in my dream, that, in my high self, in my dream state, I had a crystal suit, much like I felt a lot like Archangel Michael, like I was
Mm.
his sister or twin, and I have a sword just like it. So that this demonic energy was coming at me, just like in Doctor Strange. And I spun around and I cut its head off, and it evaporated. And then it came back and it came at me again, and I killed it a second time. And then the third time it came at me, and I dropped the sword and I crossed my arms and I said, "Are we going to do this all day? Because you're just making me stronger."
Oh, I love that.
Because that's life. And that's how you
That's it.
become a demon slayer.
That's how it is.
By disempowering that energy, looking at things from a higher perspective, you have no hold over me, but I love you. And fear
Mm.
hates being
Yeah.
loved. I love you because you're teaching me how powerful I am. And
Mm.
I'm learning to tap into the source that I am, and that I can overcome anything because I am an incredible being of divine light, and I am co-creating with the universe.
Mm.
So there's my little tidbit on demonic energy
Mhm.
and
Cool.
that how we can become a demon slayer ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's a very obviously a very that dream is speaking very clearly what it is about. And I think that, you know, I don't want to focus on those things. I don't think that that's going to ever be maybe my area of expertise, but I think that in terms when it comes to demons and dark entities, it's at least quite good to understand that it exists.
Oh, it's an
Because
energy that is real. Yes, we see it around
oh
us all the time, and especially
yeah,
in this world,
but you
in
know
this 3D
how
reality.
but you know that there are so many people on this on this earth that don't will not believe it, and I think that how you
Because they're
know
persona,
how
they're
can you
adding a,
protect yourself against something that you don't believe in? It's like the dream scenario for dark entities or non-organic beings that come to suck energy out of people. If the people don't even believe in them, that's like that's the dream, you know.
right. And if you hold a lower vibration, I'm going to speak from an experience. I'm going to go out there. I remember years ago, and I know it's spoken about, that they can sometimes, that energy can come in when you're sleeping and can paralyze you. I've had it where it's actually pulled on my hand. When I was a little girl, I used to sleep with the covers over my head and breathing through a little air hole because I could sense all those energies, but I was also in a vibration of fear that something potentially bad could happen to me. And I'm not going to wait like you. I don't want to focus on that. Again, what you focus on becomes your reality.
Yeah.
But it is there, and it can be alchemized. And as you hold these higher vibrations,
Mm.
those frequencies, they just don't resonate with you anymore. So they can't touch you. So I love that you have this practice of a cross. When you were doing it, for me, what came through was a centering.
Sorry, a what?
So a
Centering.
centering.
Mm.
So instead of in that duality, polarity, separation, bringing it back to source and ascending into our highest selves. So for me, that's when you did this,
Mm.
I'm getting an activation of centering myself
Mm.
and then holding a higher vibration so that I am no longer resonating with those demonic energies.
Yeah, yeah. But
It's the
there is,
same thing.
I think that that's also true because the feeling when I have been doing it is, you know, my hands have just been doing it by themselves, and I think that the feeling is a statement somehow, like a pronouncing of something. Could you say that? Like
You can say
pronouncing
anything.
words. Yeah. You can say anything. That's true. You can say anything. No, but yeah, it's a grounding. It's a
It's a
grounding
grounding,
of
centering.
yourself, and for me it is like, this is, it's almost like, yeah, this is what I'm saying, this is me, and that's it, and that's the bottom line, and nothing else is going to be accepted. It's like putting out boundaries also, actually, somehow, for yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking boundaries.
Yeah.
So as you start to hold, live in a place of high integrity and live by these virtues that are of a higher vibration, recognizing that at that point, you're no longer playing in the realm of manipulation, third level consciousness, because you don't need to manipulate to survive. You're not playing in those demonic energies anymore. So I love that you said the boundaries, because it connects also to what you said earlier about truth. How do we get out of that 3D reality when there is manipulation and stuff happening around
Oh.
us?
Mm.
And we happen to be in the middle of it, and we're doing all the right things and grounding. So what helps us get through something like that? And I can say for myself, standing in my truth, holding my vibration high, and sticking to the virtues that I live by, and living by that truth. And what I mean by staying in a place of fact and not story, because otherwise you're feeding into an illusion. So I don't know if that makes sense, but the truth always comes out. So when you recognize that there's manipulations happening around, just say, oh, just wait it out, be patient, live in the highest integrity, and just let life unfold, because the truth will always come out. And if you are always staying in this place of integrity and truth, then nothing can knock you down, because you can't fight truth.
No, no, I love that, and yes, I love that you bring up the discussion about truth, because that is such an incredibly important piece of, actually, our ascension journey, the way I see it, the journey of stepping into ourselves. That's like an everyday job, to be really vigilant with yourself. And it even makes me think of what we have talked about before. Well, you're working with the avatars, and the like, the really interesting thing of watching yourself, being awake every day to how you live your life, like, even the smallest things that we do, and that has to do with honesty, like how
Yeah.
we talk to people, and yeah, when you talk about manipulation and all of that, I guess the biggest challenge with that is that it can be triggering when you see it, when you
Mm-hmm.
see other people, and you see, oh, I see what they're doing there, and they're, and on top of it, they seem to succeed with it, they seem to get something out of it,
But the
towards,
operative word is seem.
yeah,
Seem.
exactly,
Because
but
manipulations are only temporary,
yes,
because the
exactly.
truth always comes out.
So this is how we have to kind of also, again, stabilize ourselves and try not to be reactive to what we're seeing, and
Trust.
and trust, and instead coming back to, because this is the other thing, there's so many lies and manipulation going around, but if we are as honest as we can when we speak to people, I think that we are actually not just doing that for our own sake, we're helping other people to step in to being truthful, and it will help, it will spread. I really believe that. It
As
will
you're
make.
saying that, I'm envisioning the media and how that is going to shift. Because if we shift the energy behind people trying to find, I'm thinking of like tabloids, for instance, we're looking for a story and we're digging because the intention why they want something that's going to make them, I don't know, it always comes down to capital gain.
Mhm.
But if we start to shift, because more and more people, as they're awakening and ascending, we become very sensitive to what is truth and what isn't. And I truly believe that media is going to shift and that it's going to be really unbiased, because what is truth? I don't know. It's information is always shifting depending on the lens of interpretation, perception, the writer, the reader. There are so many influences that come into play. So maybe we start to become more transparent and just start saying, well, this is my truth, and recognizing that somebody else's truth is different,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. It is. And in order for that to be okay, people cannot be so afraid anymore of other people's opinions, because
Mm,
I think that it has to do with insecurity. If you feel safe and secure within yourself and within your own truth, you're also going to allow other people to have their truth and
yeah,
their thoughts and their opinions, which is obviously what media was supposed to be, I think, back in
right,
the days. and,
right.
and like you say, I hope that we're walking towards that. I think that that's necessary for
Right. And
us
that we start
to survive.
celebrating all of our gifts and talents and our way of expressing ourselves. And I don't know, the artist in me is coming out a little bit, because I, I'm seeing what the potential in it all, and it being truly a magical place here on earth. And yes, I have this very idealistic way of seeing things, but I am not, I will never let that go,
No,
because that is how we transform this reality. Anything is possible. And as we hold these higher vibrations, it's really, you don't get triggered the same way. You let people have their experience, but you stand in your energy. You don't lower or dim your light for anyone. And just hold space for them to join you, and send them with love, and let them explore their journey in their own in their unique way.
yeah,
So with
exactly.
that, Lisa, like, we've covered a lot of incredible
Yeah.
things. I'm just curious what your biggest takeaway is from this amazing conversation.
My biggest takeaway, I think that it shows us again the importance of lifting each other, and keep, how much it means to be able to share these thoughts with somebody who wants to take on the journey as well. We really do. We just rise higher and higher, don't we?
We do, and maybe shifting that a little bit, in that we're not lifting each other. We hold each other high by lifting ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I don't want, I'm just seeing all the empaths out there having this need to lift everyone else up. I'm like, no, 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 don't start doing that.
No,
You need
no,
to, and that's where
no.
the self-love journey is, and holding your vibration as high as you can. And trust me, it's freaking addictive. So much
Yeah.
fun to hold this high vibration, and
Mm,
it does become a new way of living, and people will be drawn to it, and they'll want to learn and want to be in your energy, so that they too can experience that. And if you start to lower your vibration or your energy to meet somebody else where they're at, then you really are doing a disservice to yourself and ultimately everyone
mm,
else.
totally.
Demon
But
Slayer.
yeah. Yeah, but again, that's something that can happen when we are afraid of not being loved or not being a part of a group or whatever.
Right. Okay. Right. So let's just be ourselves and become comfortable with being ourselves and
Yeah.
and let go of what is normal. A friend of mine passed away. Years, that was his saying. He said, normal is just a setting on the washing machine.
Yeah, it should be, shouldn't it?
That's all
That
it is.
that really is enough with
It's
normal.
enough.
Yeah.
Be
We can.
unique. Be yourself. Be silly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to conform.
No.
Express yourself in your own unique signature because that's what makes you uniquely you. And that's how we restore this earth experience into a garden of Eden full of
Mm-hmm.
different essence, senses of smell and colors and shapes and flowers.
And
Anyway,
how do and we do that, I think, by listening also to every inspiration that pops up inside us,
right.
that we listen to what comes in and respond.
I'm very sorry, Lisa. Me being
Yeah,
transparent, I have somebody knocking at the door, so we're gonna have to end this conversation.
of course.
This is a new earth, being transparent. This is the way it
Yeah,
is. I
that's
love
how it is.
you. Thank you
I
so
love
much for doing this with me. And let's get together or connect again soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Lisa. You're the
you.
best.